Good luck.
Thank you. And that's what's coming up on West Wing Week.
Welcome to the West Wing Week, your guide to everything that's happening at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. This week, the president delivered the first State of the Union address of his second term, and then brought his proposals to a factory in North Carolina and a school in Georgia, presided over a Medal of Honor ceremony, honored the outgoing Secretary of Defense, and hung out on Google+. That's February 8th to February 14th, or You're a Hero.
Good to see you. We're so proud of you. You're a hero.
On Friday, in preparing for the signature event of this week's West Wing Week, some of the president's speechwriters ventured to the Oval Office through the West Wing with the latest draft of the president's 2013 State of the Union speech, while the president made his morning commute to meet them in the Oval for a working session on the highly anticipated address. The president then had a Q&A session in the Roosevelt Room with the 2012-2013 White House Fellows, one of America's most prestigious programs for leadership and public service, where he talked about some of the qualities he looks for in building a team.
Are people of high character and recognize that we're involved in something bigger than us.
Later, the president greeted Team Rubicon in the Oval Office, where they described their veteran-based disaster relief program. The president then paid tribute to outgoing Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta at a ceremony replete with the requisite pomp and circumstance at Fort Myer.
The tenure of Secretary Leon Panetta will be remembered for historic progress in welcoming more of our fellow citizens to military service, for the formal and final repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, for opening combat roles to our incredible women in uniform. In short, for making our military and our nation that much stronger.
On Monday, the president gave the Medal of Honor to Staff Sergeant Clinton Romeshay for his heroic actions in Afghanistan.
The question has often been asked, why? Why do those in uniform take such extraordinary risks? You ask Clint and any of these soldiers who are here today, and they'll tell you, yes, they fight for their country, and they fight for our freedom. But most of all, they fight for each other, to keep each other safe and to have each other's backs.
Later, West Wing Week checked in on some of the speechwriters for an update on the address.
It's Monday, the day before the State of the Union. We are waiting for the president to edit the latest draft of the speech. This should be one of the final edits. Oh, how about this? And my administration will cut red tape, right? That works.
On Tuesday, when the president addressed the nation from the United States Capitol for the first State of the Union of his second term, the White House provided something you couldn't find anywhere else: an enhanced version of the speech that offered charts, facts, and other supporting information to illustrate the case made by the president.
We were sent here to look out for our fellow Americans, the same way they look out for one another. We should follow their example. We should follow the example of a North Miami woman named Desaline Victor. When Desaline arrived at her polling place, she was told the wait to vote might be 6 hours. Hour after hour, a throng of people stayed in line to support her, because Desaline is 102 years old. And they erupted in cheers when she finally put on a sticker that read, "I voted."
Immediately following the speech, the White House streamed a virtual live Q&A. During the special Open for Questions event, a panel of senior advisors answered questions about the president's address submitted by citizens all across the country via Twitter, Google+, and Facebook. On Wednesday, the president traveled to Arden, North Carolina, to the factory floor of the Linamar Corporation, where he heard firsthand about Linamar's collaboration with the nearby community college to train workers for good manufacturing jobs right here in America.
As long as you're out here fighting every day to better your lives and to better the lives of your children, then I'll be back in Washington fighting for you.
On Thursday, the president traveled to Decatur, Georgia, to the College Heights Early Childhood Learning Center, where he visited classrooms and spoke on his plan, unveiled in the State of the Union address, to ensure high-quality preschool for every single child in America.
Education has to start at the earliest possible age, and that's what you have realized here in Decatur. Study after study shows that the earlier a child begins learning, the better he or she does down the road. The kids we saw today that I had a chance to spend time with in Mary's classroom, they're some of the lucky ones, because fewer than 3 in 10 4-year-olds are enrolled in a high-quality preschool program.
When he got back to the White House, the president hosted a Google Hangout where he discussed his proposals from the State of the Union, among other topics. This is the latest in a series of fireside hangouts, Google's 21st century take on President Franklin D. Roosevelt's fireside chats. To find out more information on any of these second-term topics or to see complete videos of these events, go to whitehouse.gov. And thanks again for checking out your West Wing Week.
Colin is not as shy as Clinton. He was in the Oval Office and he was racing around pretty good and sampled a number of the apples before he found the one that was just right.